Okay, good afternoon, members of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission and guests. I want to start off by giving a greeting, and I think introductions are going to be appropriate, though not on the official agenda, but I see some new faces, and we want to do an appropriate welcome. Um, my name is Angeline F. Johnson. I serve as the newly elected chair of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission. And this is our July 11th meeting for our monthly meeting. Again, we have some new faces. Stacy, can you kick us off for introductions? I know you know who's here and why they're here, and we'll do a round of introductions first.
Okay, so I'm Stacy Nell. I'm the executive director. And the introductions, we have a new commissioner, Commissioner Jade Ramsdell. She's been on the commission for a while, but she knew she was going to have an absence before she was appointed, so she missed her first meeting. It was already excused because of previous conflicts, and then of course our June meeting got kicked into July. So this is Jade Ramsdell, and I'll leave her to introduce herself. I know she works here with KDHE. So Jade, if you wanted to say a few words. Oh, we can't hear you yet. No, can't hear you. Well, maybe while Jade's figuring, nope, not yet. While Jade's figuring that out, I'll continue to introduce. So we have other commissioners on the call. Mark McCormick is on the call. He is a longtime member of the commission and most recently the past chair. So if you want to wave or say hi to everyone, Mark. I guess Mark's not going to say anything. And then we have
You told me to
Commissioner Dr.
wait.
Crystal. Oh, hi. Dr. Crystal Davis is on the call today as well. And she joined the commission in January, I think was her first official meeting. If I think, Dr. Crystal, is that a yay or a nay there?
Um, I want to say February, but
February. I remember
yes.
it's been fairly recent. Also on the call, Alvaro Escobedo. Alvaro, if you want to just video yourself for a hot second. It's under my executive director update, so I could even wait until then. But we did hire an executive administrative assistant for the suite. So since I've been talking about the fact that we were supposed to be hiring someone, we did hire someone. This is him. This is Alvaro. He joins the office here. He's been here for maybe 3 weeks, maybe, and he splits his time between KAAC and KAAC. So I don't have him full time. Technically today he's not working for me, but he agreed to give up an hour to come join this meeting. I have him Monday, Tuesday, and half of Wednesday, and then the last half of Wednesday through the rest of the week he technically works for KAAC. But since our meetings are on Friday, he thought he would at least pop in and say hi. So if you wanted to do a quick hi, Alvaro.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here and yeah, really excited. It's been wonderful working under Stacy, so really excited to see what the commission has in store.
Yes. So technically, because Angelina and I had this conversation, technically Alvaro works for me. Like he answers to, like he works for me. So that's just what's going on. And then in terms of just introductions, would you like for me, Chair, would you like for me to introduce Window as well? Or she comes up later in the agenda?
Well, if you can just introduce that she's here and that she will be coming up later on the introduction. We'll go into
Yes. So
details when she actually presents.
also joining us is Window Kamori, and she is a current, hang on, I'm going to get Jade back in here to try to get her. So she is a current intern with the Voter Network, dealing with the voter to voter tool. And she is here today to give us a brief presentation about the Voter Network and the voter to voter tool, just to present it to the commission in hopes of this being something that we can participate in.
Right. Thank you for that. And we do have Jade back with us now, twice. So we can see which one we can get some sound from for her to share a little bit about herself.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful to be here with you all. My name is Jade Ramsdell. My background is in public health and population strategy. I work at the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, but fully integrated and very excited to have lived in Topeka my whole life and really just get back to community there. This opportunity presented, and I can think of no better way to help, really just expand my reach within my community and support others. So really just excited to walk alongside you all, learn, grow, and figure out ways that we can help advance the mission here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jade, and welcome. So, as we move forward with advancing the agenda, I'm going to, in advance, ask for a bit of grace. This is going to be my first time leading the meeting as the chair, so requesting grace as we navigate this. And have had some conversations with Stacy on just some adjustments to format and approach with the meeting, so we're going to try that out for the first time today. Starting off with, there should be a call to order officially. So I did not officially call the meeting to order. See, grace. So we are officially calling, the meeting has officially been called to order. Stacy, do the introductions count as the official roll call? You've already acknowledged who's here. Do we need to also acknowledge who is not here?
Grace, I don't know, because as soon as you said we're going to get started, I put down 131 and then started roll call. I put roll call and introductions and went on with it. So I don't know how you want to handle it.
Can we, just so we are clear, especially since we have a new member as well, if we could go through the roll call of the commissioners that should be present, that would be appropriate.
Okay. Do you want me to do that?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. So Commissioner Crystal Davis, Commissioner Trent Davis, I'm going alphabetically. He does not appear to be here yet. Commissioner Angelin Johnson.
Present.
Commissioner Mark McCormick.
Present.
Commissioner Jade Ramsdell.
Present.
And Commissioner Jonathan Westbrook, who he did email me to indicate that he expected to be a few minutes late, but he is not currently here right now.
Okay. Thank you. Something else that is relatively new to the process is we have a section that's approval of the minutes. Just to share the thought behind that is it is important that we have records and we are all on the same page as far as what has already happened, what is anticipated for today's meeting, and just making sure that we're tracking what the work that we're doing. So we are going to be including an approval of the minutes in advance of meetings taking place. So the minutes from the previous meeting will be provided for you to review in advance, and then let us know if there are any updates, changes, suggestions, or corrections that need to be made to those minutes. So the minutes from last month were emailed to everyone. If you have not had a chance to review them, if you could take a look at them and see if there's anything that needs to be added or changed. I will note, I did not see in the part of the minutes discussing the upcoming brunches. I didn't see Junction Cities listed, but I know we talked about it, but I think it just got inadvertently omitted. So that's the only thing that I noticed. Anyone else notice anything to the minutes? Okay. So we need to make a formal acceptance of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes with the edit of adding the Junction City brunch to it? Is there a second to that motion, or is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay. Again, Grace, I have to remember, okay, what do I do next? Mark, I want to look to you. What do I do next? So I just say
We have a motion on the
nay?
floor. It's been moved. Do we have a second?
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It has been moved by Commissioner McCormick. Is there a second?
I'll
And
second that motion.
motion's
It's
been
moved and
seconded.
seconded. Do we have any discussion?
It has been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? There is no discussion. There is a discussion.
I saw both Jade and Dr. Crystal's mouths moving at the same time, so I'm not sure who I should put down as second. Although depending on what you Google, I'm not sure I have to actually write down the second, but who?
I heard a voice. I thought it was Commissioner Ramsdell. I see Commissioner Davis nodding, so we will attribute the second to Commissioner Ramsdell. It's been moved and properly seconded. Are you ready for the vote? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Executive Director update, Stacy.
You would think I'd be able to find that button quicker. We're like 18 years into the pandemic. This is the Stacy doing executive director update. We have hired a new executive assistant, administrative assistant, Alvaro. He is working out wonderfully. The challenge is for that we can actually expand a little bit of capacity because now I have a little bit of help. I do want to give a brief report on the Wichita brunch that happened on the 28th of August. I would count that as a success. We had maybe between 70 and 80 people in attendance. The food was wonderful. There was lots of participation. Chair Johnson was there. Mark McCormick was there. Window gave an excellent presentation about voter to voter. That's why we were asking her to come back and do the presentation as well. She had to follow Mark Dupree, who brought us to church that day. And so she held her own. We do have continuing 4 more brunches coming up. The next one is tomorrow, in fact, in Junction City. And there's one thing I did want to add in that didn't come across my attention until yesterday. So the Kansas Birth Equity Network, and we need to figure out how I should put these requests out. The Kansas Birth Equity Network is an organization that we have been in relation with for the last several years because they do a lot of work on Black maternal health. They have sponsored several bills trying to go through the Kansas legislature to varying degrees of success. Usually they have not had success because of issues. But we have partnered with them on a lot of those issues to try to help on the legislative side. By we, I mean largely me. They have a summit that comes up every year. It's in September, so we have a lot of time. The cost to attend for governments and nonprofit, honestly, I think they put this in for me because I was like, I'm not a nonprofit and I'm not it's $200 to attend the conference. But now that we have a budget committee and now that we're trying to be more judicious and best practices about how money gets spent by the executive director, it falls below the do I have to tell you guys, but I think I should tell you guys if I was even remote. I have not spent this money yet, and if the commission says no, that's not a good use of our money, and then I will not do it. We still have money left in the Kansas Health Foundation Fund, so it's not as if it's coming out of the state general fund. And I have not told K-Ben yes, because I'm like, well, we got to learn this new best practices thing. Let me talk to the commission before I talk to K-Ben, before I talk to our accountants, before I even remotely figure out how to move money, let me talk to the commission first. That's it for me in terms of an executive director update.
With that event, Stacey, again, what is the date of that event again and the title for that event?
September 10th and 11th. It's the Kansas Birth Equity Network Summit.
If there, and I do not know if there's interest, but if there is interest from any of the commissioners to attend as well, is that a possibility?
I will look into that. If there's interest, definitely.
Is there any immediate interest in possibly within your commissioner role, anyone interested in possibly joining as well?
I should mention it's in Wyandotte County. Last year it was held at the Sporting KC. I don't even know what the room's called. You know that big fancy room where they hold events at Sporting KC? I don't know if the room is called, but that's where it's held. It's at Sporting KC. So it would require going to Kansas City, Kansas.
Well, Stacey, thank you for sharing that. I will always encourage commissioners to participate in different events happening throughout the state as well, to represent and present the commission and joining Stacey at events like this. As Stacey has already shared, it's the cost of the event is one under any threshold where she would need formal vote or acknowledgement from the commission. But also, thank you for sharing this that we know, and also providing an opportunity for any commissioners that may want to go to be able to attend. If there is anyone that is interested, please reach out to Stacey so she can follow up on the ability for commissioners as well to be represented at the event. Any other questions or comments for Stacey? Okay, thank you, Stacey. Moving on to old business, we have 3 items. The first item was conversation about meeting with the governor. During my first meeting coming on the board, I know that's part of the conversation. There's also a carryover from Stacey. I see you.
Is it possible for us to do window presentation? Like we had discussed that when do we put window in?
I completely jumped. It's on the agenda. Absolutely. Thank you for that pause. Wendell, please forgive me. We absolutely would like to continue with the voter-to-voter presentation. Please go ahead.
Sure. Is it okay if I screen share on here?
Yeah, let me make sure. Multiple participants should be able to share. Can you do that? Does it come up?
I believe so.
So while she's getting that worked out, I want to just explain a little bit of background if you're not familiar with Voter to Voter or the Voter Network. This is one of the Voter Network is engaged in voter education in dealing with the behaviors, as opposed to it's very nonpartisan. It's not telling people how to vote, but encouraging people to vote. I know we're sort of in the stance of what's the commission doing moving forward. In the absence of having any clear marching orders, I reached out to Voter and said, hey, I would be willing to manage a team. And so part of that team is being built by people who are coming to the brunches, the leadership brunches. But then also, if you as commissioners, this is very easily handled. If you as commissioners would like us as KAAC commissioners to build a voter team, that is something that we could very directly do to encourage voter turnout. And as we know, in the Black community, voter turnout is always an issue and always something that can need encouragement to have people participate. So with that in mind, that was why with the brunches where we've partnered with Voter Network, and that's also why I wanted to bring Window in. All right, I'm now going to stop talking. Window. Go.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Stacey, and no worries. I'm glad you guys didn't forget about me. Yeah, I honestly, half of you were at the Wichita brunch, so probably heard this presentation, remember me. But yeah, as mentioned, my name is Wendo Kimori. I am here on behalf of the Voter Network. I am currently an incoming junior at Washburn University, and I am pre-law, double minoring in leadership and public relations. And so I was interested in obviously getting engaged, more civically engaged, and I wanted to learn more about relational organizing. And so hopefully you all are able to learn some more about it as well. So today I'll be talking about the importance of relational organizing, as well as showing numbers on voter turnout and talking about our voter-to-voter tool and how it can specifically help with that relational organizing process. I'm going to turn off a fan in the back. It's a little bit loud on. Okay, sorry about that. So onto the next slide. So basically, okay, so here we are. So the Voter Network is a 501c3 nonpartisan organization, and we exist to inform, engage, and connect Kansans through nonpartisan voter education and really effective voter turnout efforts. So we do this because democracy is strongest when we all participate, and specifically, we accomplish this by using our innovative peer-to-peer effort, our tool Voter to Voter, and by providing reliable, nonpartisan election resources. And on the left here is an example of one of the resources that we have on our website. We also have it, if anyone's going to be there tomorrow, we have printouts of those. And so we always encourage people to take a few, give them to their friends. It's not helpful when I go home and just take the box. We obviously want to get the information out. And so, yeah, we have group calls and training. Last night we actually had our primary kickoff call, and so a whole bunch of people who had already signed up to be ambassadors were able to get to kind of talk. We did some breakout rooms and we split them up and talked about it, and we talked about the primaries, the current counties that will have primaries. And so people who had we had told them to look on their dashboard and find people who lived in those counties and make sure to send them reminders, because not every county will have a primary. But yeah, we also have election timelines, social media, access to voter program, and then we also have all this in Spanish on ksboleta.org. So we're also pushing that because, again, we're trying to reach a lot of those underrepresented, systemically excluded communities. And so this graph here shows voter turnout from the 2022 general election by race and ethnicity. So it's Asian, Black, Hispanic, and white in that order. And as you can see, there are disparities in both voter registration and voter turnout. Most age-eligible white Kansans are already registered to vote, and unfortunately, Black, Asian, and Hispanic Kansans are under-registered by comparison. Specifically, comparing the Black and the white graphs, you can see that Black people are about half as registered as the white population. This is still not much for any, like, for the highest demographic to be white people, and they can't even clear 60%. It's obviously clear that not everyone, we want more people, but again, with our populations and a lot of those, minorities and underrepresented communities, it's really pretty harmful. And so I pulled some data here from, this is actually going to be Geary County, which is where we'll be tomorrow. And so here's some close races. This is just proof that when elections are close, that's when our votes matter most. So this is publicly available data. We had to request it from the Geary County Elections Office. A little hard to find further elections because this was 2023, but they have, I believe, the 2024 data up. But this is why voter turnout is so important, because on the examples listed here, the differences were both under 50 ballots. And bigger chart is from a really close commissioner race in Junction City from 2023. And the general election, again, this election only had about a 10% voter turnout. And like we say, the graphs we showed, that's the population of people who are registered to vote. And so that's already a small number of the population. And now we only have 10% of those people who are showing up. And so it's really only a handful of people who are making these huge decisions that affect everyone. And that difference from that chart on the left was 44 votes. And then the one on the right was literally 1 vote. That was the difference. That was the deciding ballot. This was a school board election from for USD 473. And imagine it's one person who decided who is going to be on that seat. And so, it's less than 25% of Kansas voters are registered, or less than 25% of registered Kansas voters participate in local elections. And again, as we know, people who do end up participating are older, whiter, and wealthier than the population as a whole, which means that it's easy for policymakers to ignore the people who don't vote. And so here's another graph. There was about 11%, almost 12% general voter turnout. Again, really small difference compared to the numbers of people who existed and are living in being in these counties. And so that brings us to the voters, the kind of the ethos of why we do what we do, which is that who the message comes from is just as important as the message. And so this is where the relational organizing model really comes into play. So as it says on the slide, relational organizing keeps things personal and it's effective. People, when they're running campaigns, they don't really have the budgets to be reaching out to the people who are not registered, right? When a candidate is running for something, they're going to use their budget on the people who are already showing up to elections. But unfortunately, that creates a really dangerous feedback loop where the people who are not showing up to elections and who don't have information and who are less likely to, get that stuff in the mail, they aren't getting any sort of information on what's happening. And again, only a small group of people end up deciding what is happening in those cities and those counties. And so our structure in voter to voter is that there's a team leader, so someone who recruits ambassadors and supports their outreach with resources and techniques. And then below them are ambassadors, not necessarily below them, but, alongside them, we'll say, are the ambassadors. And so those people are the volunteers who all empower their contacts to vote. So each of those people will recruit 10 people. I was a part of their mobilization program, I believe, last fall. And so I think I had 50 people on my list because they were asking for a bit more since it was the presidential election. But so the contacts are anyone who the ambassador knows and is going to help vote. What I personally love about this model so much is that you aren't contacting strangers. You are reaching out within your own network. You're talking to people who you already know. And so it was, not as daunting as maybe when you're canvassing, just knocking on doors and hoping people will be willing to listen to you. But it's super important that we work within, people that we know. And as it says up here, the idea is that you talk to your friends, they talk to theirs, and then until everyone is voting. And so this is the dashboard of the actual tool. We won't go too into depth. The presentation that we did in Wichita, we did a lot of those little technical showed a lot of the intricacies of the tool, but gives you a pretty clear snapshot. So once you create your account and you join your team, you'll be able to look up people on your list. Those people aren't notified that you look them up, and this information here that you see is already like publicly available. The tool just kind of consolidates it in a way that is more productive, obviously, for relational organizing. And so you'll be able to see here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it'll show their first name, last name, their city, and then their score. So that's what's most important here is their voter propensity score. So the score column, that number indicates how many of the last 4 elections the person has voted in, and the lower the score, so an example is that middle one right there, that means that's like how many elections that they've showed up in the past, I believe, four elections. So obviously, the lower the score, the less likely they are to be showing up to vote. And so those are the people who you really want to reach out to and make sure that they have the information and the resources and the voting plan, and make sure they're hitting those deadlines if they wanted to request a ballot or get registered. And so that means the more they need your support. People who have, like, 3s or 4, probably pretty active, more likely to vote. And so that's kind of the tool that we use. And then here is some proof. This is the statewide turnout compared to people that we connected with. And as you can see, these are like the higher bars are the big presidential elections. That's the 2024 and that 2022. Those are kind of the highest, but those middle ones are all the local, like, primary. And the light blue bar is how we tracked like our relational organizing compared to statewide efforts. So it's consistently higher, almost sometimes double what those statewide efforts look like. And so it does really work. That's how we know that it actually works. And so here are some important dates that people should be aware of. So this is the primary election timeline. So July 15th is the voter registration deadline to be able to participate in the primary election. And then July 16th, voting by mail begins. And we always say that, it's kind of iffy right now with mail-in ballots. We always encourage people, okay, they told me to say to get your ballot in at least 5 days before, but honestly, if you could turn them in person, or like do whatever you can to just get it in the office as soon as possible, just because you never know what might be going on with those delays. And I know they recently got rid of that statute that allowed for that 3-day grace period. It'll work through this. This is, I believe, the last year that will be applicable. And so we just want to get people into the habit of like trying to turn it in person. And so, yep, August 5 is election day for those primaries. And then August 8th, the mailed ballots must arrive at the election office, and mail-in ballots must be postmarked by election day. And so specifically for Junction City, again, this is information that we'll share tomorrow, but this is the primary that will be happening, which is just a commissioner race, which will be narrowing down. I believe there's 10 people right now, and we'll be narrowing it down to 6. And so still super important, still ultimately affects who's going to be making a lot of those decisions and representing the people who live there. And then here are the general election dates that are also important. And then we have resources. All of this stuff is available on our website. And, we've got that voter registration deadline is the 14th. But if you've registered by the 15th to participate, July 15th to participate in the primary, then you should be fine. And then election day is the 4th, and same thing with those mail-in ballots, must be postmarked by election day and must be, preferably turned in person, but yeah, just mailing it as soon as possible if you must be absentee voting. And then, of course, here are some of the election resources that we have. So kansasballot.org is where you can find those nonpartisan election resources, a sample ballot. You can run. We have this new run for office feature, kind of late for, this election, but you can look at, some of those timelines and resources and sample ballots. I know that this is really helpful. I've started doing this because, when you show up and you see all those names that you maybe don't recognize on the ballot, it's really good to see what your ballot might look like, be able to research those candidates and know who you're going to be voting for. And then kansasvotes.org is where you can update and verify voter registration. So name change, address change, and you can also request a mail-in ballot through there. And then there's a link to that. And here is the QR code that we have been showing people, and that we'll also have printouts of and be more clear about tomorrow. So this is where you can sign up for that KBLC like voter to voter team. And then we'll be encouraging people to add 10 people in their personal network who are not regular voters. And then we also have those weekly office hours from Wednesday, like each Wednesday from 12:30 to 1:30. Any questions about the tool or the mobilization, however any of that works, we'll be able to answer those there. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you all so much for listening. How do I stop screen sharing? Wait. Okay.
Thank you, Window. I wanted to come back up. I'm glad we have this because this will be a practice run for the rest of our brunches. Let me explain why I'm pitching this as an idea. We know that voter turnout is poor. We also know that candidates only have a certain amount of money to reach out to people. But the other thing that we also know is that peer organizing works. The example that I always give is, let's say I know I need to go exercise. And Jade has been talking about wanting to go exercise. Well, if Jade and I independently don't have any kind of accountability, who knows? But if I say, hey, Jade, 3 times a week, let's go for a walk over lunch, right? Well, she may not go for the walk, except for the fact that I'm like, hey, Jade, let's go for the walk. And we hold each other accountable. It's the same thing with voting. Window could have reached out to all you guys and said, hey, I want you to join this voter network. But the fact that I'm here saying this is a good idea ups the likelihood that you're going to join it because I'm the messenger telling you this is a good idea. Even if Window telling you, you don't know Window, but you know me. So if I say, hey, this is a good idea, you're more likely to listen to Window than if she had just shown up on her own. That's the whole backing behind peer organizing, is that you are the most effective voice for your circle of friends. You are more effective for your circle of friends even than I am for your circle of friends, but I'm the most effective voice for my circle of friends. Briefly, I have run my own personal voter to voter team before. I started with 17 people and I used the tool and found people specifically. The reason why I picked them on my team is that they weren't on Facebook. At least they weren't my friends on Facebook. And they had scores of 0, 1, or 2, which means that in the last 4 elections, they may not have voted at all, but they were registered to vote. And me on my own, I texted them, hey, Jade, hey, do you know there's an election coming up? Because if someone's a 0, they may not even be clocking that there's an election. Hey, Jade, is there an election coming up? Hey, you know what? Do you know where to go vote? Do you know your ballot, where you go to vote? I can give you a sample ballot. Early voting starts, like I would text these people like 7 times. Early voting starts, hey, last day to vote. If you're in line, stay in line. Like I text these people 7 times. But because they were my friends, one, they would look at the text because, if you get text from some candidate, I didn't even look at the text. But because Jade and I are buddies, she would look at my text. Also, I would be like, Jade, send me a selfie of you once you get your I voted sticker on. And she would do it because it's me. So that's the power of peer organizing it for these people who don't normally turn out to vote, because that I'm the one helping them out. One woman after the vote, she said, thank you so much. I just had always had some anxiety around voting. It just seemed really complicated, but you really helped me see that it was simple. And of those 17 people who were 0, 1s, and 2s, 15 of them voted. That means 2 of them still didn't, but 15, some of those people who had never voted before, voted just because I was a friendly voice to say, let's walk you through it. Do you have any questions? Let me help you out. So that's the why. That's why we're doing this. The ask is if you join the tool, right? I will manage the team. I'm not asking you to manage a team necessarily. I may ask you to text your friends. I may send out a thing saying, text your friends that early voting starts. Text your friends like that sheet that had all the dates on it. And I might text that to you and say, screenshot it, text it out. So there is a little bit of work to do on your half of it. But that chart thing that she showed, I will take on the top of the chart, probably with Alvaro's help. So I will take on the top of that chart and sort of figure these things out. The bottom of the chart would be that even if it's 2 friends, find 2 friends and take the responsibility. We talk big about, make sure your friends go vote. Make sure your friends go vote. This is going to be a hardcore way. Make sure your friends go vote. Benefit of working with this tool is that it is trackable. We will know. So in terms of at the end of this, if there's something, what did KAAC do? Well, KAAC turned out 17 new voters. KAAC, we had this list of people, just us 7 commissioners or whoever on the we tracked these people, we turned them out, we know they voted because it's data. So it's a nice simple you can something you can point to and say we did this, this is the data to back up the fact that we did this and we're helping our community vote. Okay, that's the pitch.
Thank you, Stacy, for sharing that. And Wendell, thank you again. You did an awesome job in Wichita, very informative, and glad that you can bring it to the commissioners as well. Like what Stacy just shared, and again, thinking about the role, the purpose, the value of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission and us as commissioners. This is a space that is important. We need to be able to mobilize our community to vote. And this is a tool, like Stacey has shared, that is easily trackable. I will share as a part of, I did the welcome in Wichita, and as a part of the welcome, data was shared with me about last year's brunch series and the purpose of last year's and outcome of last year's brunch series. Last year's focus was on getting more engagement on state of Kansas boards and commissions. And as a result of the efforts from the brunches last year, there were 29, I believe, applications that came out of KAAC's efforts in the partnership with KBLC and The Voice with the Brunch Leadership Series to generate almost 30 new applicants from our community to apply to be on a Kansas board or commission. Well, this year, the intent is to get more of our residents voting, and this is a wonderful tool that is relatively easy to use with a lot of support, where we as commissioners can really step up and take lead in moving it forward, both for ourselves and as the brunch comes to our respective districts, really speaking, pushing, highlighting, encouraging those in attendance to participate with the support of Wendell's team with Voter Network. So I wanted to share that encouragement, a challenge to myself as well. In my district, and encouraging my fellow commissioners to do the same. And as these upcoming brunches are coming, to support and encourage and push for people to join. Stacy, you were.
I wanted to add one more thing. This is Director Nell, that this tool is truly nonpartisan. It was on that screen and it was kind of glanced over. Like when I put together my 17 people, they were unaffiliated, they were Democrats, they were Republicans, because the point was these people were not voting. So no matter how they were registered, they were not voting. And the whole point of this tool is to get people to vote, not to tell people how to vote, but to get them to vote. And so the team, this is one of those, another reasons why I felt very good trying to partner with Voter Network, was because their nonpartisan reputation is very strong. So it's not about any particular, it's not even about ideology at all. It's about voter behavior, just getting people to vote. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. So any thoughts, any feedback, anything else for Wendell or Stacy? Okay, Wendell, thank you again for your presentation and taking the time to share with us the tool and the QR code. If you did not catch it for fellow commissioners on the call, Stacey, if you can share that out too, and there will be a post-meeting communication that will go out with that code. All right, Wendell, this is a public meeting. You are more than welcome to stay, and Alvaro, same for you. Or if you want to disconnect and continue on with your day, we will not be offended. But we are now going to go forward with the agenda. Now we talk about old business. Okay. So for our old business, we have 3 items. The first being conversations about the potential meeting with the governor. Again, to set the context, and I also wanted to do a pause to acknowledge that Commissioner Jonathan Westbrook has joined us. Good afternoon, Commissioner. So part of so to set the context for our new member and for our guest, the Kansas African American Affairs Commission is a part of the State of Kansas Governor's Office. So a part of the questions and thoughts and considerations is, what is our connection and relationship with the governor's office, as being that the commission sits under the governor's office. And a part of that conversation, thank you, Wendell, is was the discussing a time to potentially meet with the governor. That at one point in time, a date of August had been lifted amongst the group. That was actually pre my time, and I came on after some of that discussion. Um, it is my take that if we're going to meet with the governor, there has to be a reason to meet with the governor. Um, at this point, there is work to be done within the commission in shaping and framing the work of the commission. And it is my recommendation that we not move forward with having a meeting in August with the governor. We do that when it is appropriate, when we have a direct ask or a direct purpose for the contact. But right now, to focus our efforts on the work of the commission in and of itself, as we're really still defining that. So is there any thoughts or feedback or a difference of thought on the conversation that was already happening moving into this current commission year about meeting and connecting with the governor? Okay, I see none. Moving forward, Commissioner Davis submitted a proposal for the commission to consider. That proposal was submitted some time back, but I wanted to take time to bring that proposal that was shared with the commission via email to one of our meetings to allow Commissioner Davis to share her thoughts about it, her perspective on it, and to give the commission opportunity to voice and share our responses. Commissioner Davis, I'll go on mute to let you share your thoughts and what you want to present to us. Commissioner Davis's proposal was submitted to all of us too, so hopefully you've had a chance to look at that and respond to that. I will also share, jumping ahead just a bit, there is a plan next month to come together as a commission to really flesh out and think through and come to a concrete decision on what our next steps and focus will be for next year. So as Commissioner Davis is sharing this, do keep in mind that we will be gathering next month to solidify the direction that the commission will be going for this upcoming year. But this wanted to take this opportunity for Commissioner Davis to share with the group what she is proposing.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm wasn't really prepared to speak. I am willing to answer any questions about it or any thoughts about it. Has everyone had an opportunity to read it? It is a heavy lift. It's based on my review of the 2013 The State of Kansas report, which was commissioned by KAAC in 2013, now almost a decade and a year more than when that one was presented. And I read through that and I thought it was really interesting, some great articles and research that was presented in that report. And so I just had a wild idea like, gosh, it's been a decade. What has changed? What has happened? Has there been any, forward movement or not? And what could we add new to that report if we had other areas that we, wanted to consider or wanted to research or think through? And I did add a few in terms of technology. We know AI is here now. Also, it's my passion of entrepreneurship. I added that, and I think two more other newer sections that could be also researched and written about. Um, if I remember, I think some commissioners submitted an article or research in that report, and then probably others were asked outside of in the education community, in the church community and other communities of articles that I read in the report, and some of those people I know around the state of Kansas, and so those could be updated. We could ask those persons if they wanted to update their article that show what's happened in the last decade. A lot of research was gathered from various Kansas outlets like KDHE and other organizations, and then of course the new 4 new areas. As I've thought about it since then, it's a heavy lift. I can imagine, as a researcher myself, the amount of time and effort it took to compile that report. And so with 7 people, I thought, oh, that's a really heavy lift. So maybe a bit a bit big or audacious for the committee. And so I didn't hear any feedback. So I don't know if it was the idea people liked or like, are you crazy? This is too much or, whatever. So that was my really just idea of reading the 2013 report and thinking about where we are now, right? Have we moved the needle in any of the areas that was presented in 2013? And what does that look like in 2025? The areas that was presented in that report, but then also new areas that I just think personally are relevant to Kansans and to KAAC and the people we serve in Kansas. So that's kind of how that idea came one late night reading the 2013 report.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis, for sharing that and highlighting that. I want to look to my fellow commissioners, Commissioner McCormick, Commissioner Westbrook, especially those who have been here for some time, Commissioner Ramsdale. Uh, what are your thoughts about a continuation or an update of that previous report?
This is Commissioner McCormick. I like the idea. My only question would be about capacity, our capacity to do it.
Yes, this is Commissioner Westbrook. I also like the idea. I was looking at the strategic agenda, and I see the 5 areas that they looked at back in 2013. 64 pages is of a lot to go through. I think if we did a more condensed, more manageable, I think it could be done. Maybe again, just not something as large, or not unless that was your idea to have it as in depth as the previous report from 2013 was. But I also like the idea.
Commissioner
And I
Ramsdale,
like both of those thoughts. Sorry, it's Commissioner Davis. And not that we'd have to even do all of those areas. Obviously, if there were areas that this commission thought were important to highlight and see where we are from what was reported to what's happening now. And again, any new area that wasn't even talked about in 2013, but that we felt, are relevant now. So
This is
I hear you,
Commissioner
Commissioner.
McCormick again. I probably should have said why I think it's a good idea, not just that it's a good idea. I get the sense from the people that I've met around the state that this is the kind of research that people expect from us, the kind of perspective, the kind of insight, the kind of reflections that people might expect this commission to be engaged in. Trying to take the temperature of the state, the status of the state. I've read the Urban League's efforts for, geez, maybe 20 years. And they're always insightful. And a project like this done well, it sets priorities and also a path forward. So that's why I'd be in favor of it. And like Commissioner Westbrook and others, I think that our capacity to do this could be a challenge. Certainly for me, I have a lot of projects on the stove right now. It'd be hard for me to devote a whole lot of time to it, but I do love the idea.
Commissioner Ramsdell, I just wanted to chime in. I had the opportunity to review the report as well, and I really like the enhancements that were added, just additional areas of focus, the mental health, trauma, healing areas, those kinds of things. I think that it would be well received. Similar to Commissioner Westbrook, I think that possibly a condensed version would help with the capacity challenges that we might be facing with this, or possibly outlining some sort of strategic timeline where we can maybe set some, deadlines for ourselves and focus on one section at a time, and to be able to roll out to the public and kind of give them an idea of when to expect that.
Executive Director Nell, did you want to share any thoughts?
Yes. I have lived in the shadow of this report since the day I got this job. And I know that this is the direction that y'all are going. And my hesitancy most assuredly falls under the line of capacity and the fact that I am not a researcher. But knowing that this is the way it's going, and I can't sit here for months and say, guys, tell me what to do, and then have you tell me what to do, and me say, I don't want to do it. It's been well documented that I don't want to do this. But so what I first started to do is I reached out to one of the original researchers on this KAAC report, Donna Ray Pearson, who continues to work as a researcher for the state of Kansas right now. She is a researcher by trade. Mildred Edwards was a researcher by trade. There was another staff member on KAAC. All three of them are researchers by trade. And she said this is all they did, and it took them 2 years to do it. I also took the proposal that Dr. Crystal did, having known a couple of researchers down at Washington, WSU is always Washington State in my head, Wichita State University, emailed it over to Dr. Sarah Mata, who works in the research department at WSU, and said, I want you to just look this over and just give me a perspective. Just what will this take? She's like, well, this is really great. It's huge. If you had a solid team and great leadership, you probably could focus on it and get it done over 3 years. So when I tell you this capacity is large, I'm begging you to narrow your focus. If you're going to expect a bunch of us who, I think I'm looking at the screen, only one is a researcher by trade. Like that's your bread and butter as a researcher. Guys, come on. Now, also knowing where this could be, so I have reached out to WSU's research department. I have reached out to an original researcher on the 2013. I have reached out to the adjunct general page of the GIS to say, hey, listen, I think I'm going to have this information disaggregated another way. So if you tell me this is what we're going to do, I will figure out a way to do it. I beg of you to narrow your focus. I beg of you to come up with some way to, because I said, well, you know, this, if I ever wondered what I was going to do when I wake up and you say, this is what we're going to do, this is what I'm going to do. I beg of you to go find some funding, because if it really wants to be done well, I want to hire people who actually do this work to do this work, because I don't actually do this work. I am smart, I am capable, and I am a hard worker, and I will not do this justice. So if you want to do this, please give me the tools to be able to do it well. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Commissioner
This is
McCormick?
Commissioner.
Oh, Commissioner Davis, are you going to?
No, I'm sorry. He had his hand raised. Commissioner McCormick, I'll wait.
Yeah, this is Commissioner McCormick. I'll defer to you, Dr. Davis.
I was just going to ask, and I don't know the answer to this, and I'm sure our executive director, Stacy Knoll, probably knows. Did they have any funding, are you aware, for the 2013 report for members of KAAC to engage in it? And were, I'm just saying guest authors on this, just for lack of a better term, compensated for the articles they submitted? I'm sorry, I didn't ask that before.
Right. This is I'm not Commissioner, this is Director Nell. I have not asked that question. The budget for KAAC was larger at that point. This is pre-Brownback, right? So KAAC had more money. And again, remember, they were researchers. So KAAC effectively was employing 3 researchers. At that point, KAAC didn't have to go hire 3 researchers because KAAC employed 3 researchers. So.
Thank you.
If I recall correctly, I think the report said that one of those researchers actually was their AmeriCorps project. They were like an AmeriCorps Vista tied to doing that. So they were brought on specifically for that, in that capacity, where they were compensated to do that work. Okay. Any other thoughts or perspectives regarding the report?
Commissioner McCormick, I didn't get to weigh in before. The thought that I had after I heard what Stacy had to say, it did make me wonder to what degree some of these issues have already been studied at the university level, and if there are current university level studies that we might be able to put into a compendium that speaks to a limited number of these issues. That might be a way forward. We could elevate the research that's already happening as opposed to building our own wheel.
Thank you for sharing that perspective. Very valid points to consider from all around. Again, I'm always going to think from the perspective of what is the purpose of KAAC, what is our role as commissioners, and how do we support this state? And my general perspective of the report is that there's a benefit to being able to do an update and to be able to uh, bring together a summation and an analysis of what's happening in the state when it comes to the African American population. Um, since then, now to help us in determining what we can do moving forward to have impact, and also encouraging and educating others on what they can do to move forward regarding having impact. But there is no question we cannot ignore the reality of capacity to be able to do something like this. What I would recommend is for us to continue to, and I heard Stacy's language. I wouldn't say this is a done deal. I think there is an appetite for something like this to be more defined based on the realities and that we would have to do this in. Um, but I would like for the commission to consider continuation of this conversation as we go into the August meeting that is designed for fleshing out next steps. And then re-enter into this conversation to see if this fits and is feasible, and something to continue to flesh out. But I want to thank Commissioner Davis for coming in immediately. You beat me, I think, by a meeting or two, with a thought and idea of how this commission can do work to benefit the state, and proposing that to the group. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And this is Commissioner Davis. I'll also think through now having more. This is all great information, and I'm glad to hear the commission's, perspective. And obviously, I knew this was a big lift. Like reading that, I'm clear, right? I'm a researcher, so I could imagine the time it took to, gather and write and think about everything that went into that report. But I'll continue to think about, as Commissioner McCormick suggested and Executive Director, how could it work under the capacity we have, and what would be important in such a report that could be pared down and still be meaningful. So I intend to just give it some more thought prior to our August meeting. So thank you, and thank you all for just reading it. Thank you.
You again. Okay. Any additional thoughts before we move on to our next topic? Okay. So under old business also, Executive Director Nell had made a request, and Stacey, I'm not sure if this has already been articulated to the commissioner as a kind of a standing request, but I wanted to raise it and lift it too. For us as commissioners to provide resources to help in updating the website. When you go to the website, there's a resource tab. There's also, I can pull it up to look at the two tabs where you find information that's valuable for resources to look to understand what's happening in the state of Kansas, specific to African Americans and just in general, some organizations that are engaged, and that we can engage with in our communities can engage with. We want to make that be as comprehensive as we can, as valuable as we can, and comprehensive in geography, that is not just based in one particular district or another, but a really broad resource that the community can go to find information that could be beneficial, of various types of information. Stacy has asked that we, as the commissioners in our respective districts, help to inform that and to update that. So again, and thank you, Stacy. And Stacy, do share what specifically can be of most benefit for updates you have in mind.
You see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm talking about is the State of Black Kansas tab and the Resources tab. This is the way I had begun to sort of start to address this notion of what's the data. And we talked about this in terms of what links do you know about? Like, for example, a GIS is not something I knew anything existed until yesterday or 2 days ago. So if that's information that would be helpful to go on this site, we can put links on this site, right? Like anything that you know that you think would be helpful as a resource, putting a link on this site is very low hanging fruit and a way to compile a lot of links out to various resources. But then also with resources, so this is where I was saying, honestly, if a constituent ever calls this office, first of all, if my phone rings and someone says, "Can you help me?" I pretty much know right away I'm not going to be able to help them because I'm not a lawyer. And most of the people who call me need legal advice. So I talked about this notion of there are commissions out there, but gosh, if you in your community know of a lawyer who does pro bono work, I don't know. I don't. That's the type of resource that I need. Like who are the people in various communities? If someone needs help with something, can they call? I will tell you that's by hands down. If someone's calling, they need help, and I am not. We are not an office that provides that type of help. But what are the local food banks? What are the local housing authorities? What are the local lawyers who deal with child custody or child custody or disputes with landlord? Like, are there local resources available to help people? Because we are not a crisis center. We are not designed to be a crisis center. It's just not how we're set up. We are state level. It's just we are not on the ground. But if I know where the things are on the ground, I can point people. So that's why I was like, if we can flesh out this resources page and if we can flesh out this State of Black Kansas page, if people for some reason come to this office website and think that they might be able to get some sort of help on this website, what needs to go on this website? With the State of Black Kansas page being more like the research, I was trying to figure out a way to answer this research question without being a researcher, but also the resources page. And maybe that's not the way to do it, right? Like, I don't know. But I was just hoping that in your various communities, if you knew that there was an office that's specific, like maybe there's a county level thing in Geary County or a county level office in Sedgwick County, these are things that they're just not on my radar. I don't live there. And so that's one way that you as commissioners across the state can be helpful for what goes on in your community, right? Like, I don't know what the county level things are in a Wyandotte County, but perhaps if you had an idea, then you could, we can get all that stuff compiled on a website.
Thank you, Stacy. Any initial thoughts from the commissioners?
And that could be
Yes,
ongoing.
this is Commissioner Davis. So I just a thought that occurred to me is I'm aware of many of the Black and Brown entrepreneurship ecosystem organizations across the state. Would that be something you would want there, or that we would want there? And maybe you don't get calls about entrepreneurship per se. It's just a thought that came. Thank you.
Wondering, because again, what is the purpose of the commission? What is our role? If people are coming to visit the website or to call Stacy's office, for what reason, for what purpose, and how can we meet that and respond to that? I'm wondering, I kind of have a vision of maybe the commission is divided into our respective congressional districts. And if maybe as commissioners, we can just provide a link to a variety of resources. We know that there are organizations within our respective communities that are focused on supporting minority communities and Black communities in various capacities. Maybe if even matching to the headings that are already there, we can just within our respective spaces share with Stacy, well, what are these organizations, the website, point of contact, so that as people are come to the site or contact the office, there's that localized database of resources that Stacy will have available and the website will have available. I would again recommend that we continue this conversation as a part of next month's conversation, because it still goes back to the big picture of what is the commission, what is our focus, how are we going to be a resource and a support to the state. And that's a part of next month's meeting that we'll talk about in a bit more details framing. If the commission's okay with that, Stacy, I'd like to go that direction with the continuation of this conversation as a part of the larger conversation of our next steps moving forward for this current year.
This is Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Chair Johnson, may I just ask a question?
Absolutely.
And to Executive Director Stacy, no. Stacy, the headings we have there under both of those tabs, do those headings reflect the phone calls you get about help? And you know, maybe it's not an answer at the exact moment, but just a thought, like the phone calls you get, can they find resources for what's there right now? Or are there questions that are asked or, you know, help that's being sought for things that are not reflected there on
The
those tabs?
the only heading that reflects the calls that actually make it to me is the discrimination heading.
Okay.
And that's why there's even that first paragraph that says, please note in capital letters that the KAAC office cannot offer legal advice. 9.5 times out of 10, if someone is calling me, they think I'm a crisis center.
Mm.
That's it. The person is in the process of losing custody of their children. This person is in the process of getting evicted. This person, their loved one is in solitary confinement, and you know they're trying to get access to the person who's in prison. Their loved one got pulled over and is currently in jail in Hayes, you know, and they actually live in Arizona, and they are convinced that the sheriff is racist. And I'm like, maybe, but I don't know nothing about that. But so that's why people, if my phone rings, I know for a fact I'm not gonna be able to help them, because people think that this is a crisis center. People who don't know think it's a crisis center. Other people, I don't know, they think we're a government agency who has you know, like we are the most powerful thing in the state and we can pass laws to help Black people. So yeah, there's a wide variety of ideas about what this commission actually does. But this discrimination is the thing, right? I have referred people to ACLU. I've referred people to the Human Rights Commission. I've referred people to the housing. You know, I've referred people to the Department of Corrections. You know, I can refer people. If I can refer people to a state agency, I will. You know, but that's the thing. We're not a crisis center, but that's why I thought, man, if I knew, if you like, okay, does anyone know anybody out in Hayes? So if someone's in trouble in Hayes, like, do you know somebody? Because sometimes that's the most powerful thing is, do you know somebody? But maybe not Hayes, but in the major cities, because everyone pretty much lives in a city. If you know of a resource that, because I only know what I know, or what Alvaro knows, because you know I now put Alvaro on it, like this is what we're doing. And this is something that we do have capacity for. Like there's two of us now. I can chase down every pro bono lawyer you've heard of. And if I don't put them on the website, at least I could have like an internal document of pro bono lawyers, so that I could say, okay, well, you know, there's this guy I've heard of. I've never met him, but at least I got a name. So even if that information doesn't go on the website, yeah, people calling me really don't particularly care how many people are graduating from high school. They're concerned because they're losing their kid.
Okay. Again, Stacey, thank you for that insight into the realities that you are experiencing with communications from the public. I again go to now, since as commissioners we're aware of this, we've had conversations about this. Again, if you have connections, resources that you can provide to Stacey to add to the list, please do. The deeper consideration of what resources we make available as a commission, I think again goes into this conversation we're going to be having in August. So I am again want to encourage you to take this item as a continued conversation for our longer in-person meeting. And I want to say this, and I'll go over to Commissioner McCormick. I started this off by saying, please give some grace. I want to evoke that right now because I realize what time it is, and we have gone past our time, but we do still have some more items. But I do want to get through our agenda. I do want to note that I know that we are past time, and I will be more cognizant of that in future meetings. Commissioner McCormick.
As Commissioner McCormick, you took the words out of my mouth. I realize that we're past the time boundary. What I would like to say, though, is that to what Stacy was just saying, that's a situation I think we ought to make the governor aware of. Our chairperson had made the point earlier, well, asking, what is our role? Well, we're a liaison between the governor's office and the people that we serve, our constituents. And I too, not just in this position, but when I was deputy director and communications director at the ACLU, people were calling with immediate immigration needs. People were locked up. And what I have found is that we simply don't have enough lawyers working in these particular fields. And it is becoming a crisis. The head of the indigent lawyers board had to step down recently because the state traditionally funds them less than they fund DAs. We simply don't have the resources, and at bottom, we should be letting the governor know about these kinds of questions that we're fielding, these kinds of pleas for help. For a lot of people, they're looking for the names African American in any agency because they need help and they're desperate. And that at bottom, again, that should be something that we make the governor aware of.
Thank you, Commissioner McCormick. Any other initial thoughts or feedback?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Westbrook along the line of Commissioner McCormick. I guess the first thought that came to mind was, is this within our wheelhouse? And I know you mentioned, Commissioner Johnson, that when we do go before the governor, that we should have something of substance to speak of. And so maybe this is something that we could put on her radar, as Commissioner McCormick had mentioned, that we are fielding questions that are outside of our wheelhouse, but we want to be of service and to our constituents. So I'm sure there's something we could probably tease out a little bit more in our in-person workshop. But that's just something that came to mind, that if this is not within our wheelhouse, that we could propose that this be something that, if it is in existence, that we could maybe be a forward-facing entity that says, hey, when you do have a crisis of, what have you, this is where you go, and that we can start fielding all that stuff in that direction, so that we're not burdening, our executive director, or having to make phone calls at 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, because I've also been in that position just through my profession as well. So just a thought.
Thank you, Commissioner Westbrook, for sharing that perspective. Any other thoughts? So at this point, if there's anything pressing that you think most immediate to what's already on the site that could be enhanced, that Stacey could add easily, please send to her. In addition to that, we will resume this in more depth during our August meeting. Moving forward to new business, I'm going to look at former Chair McCormick on what I want to suggest is that this is postponed, suspended till August as well. Some of it, the end of quarter report, Stacey, you can let me know if that's something that needs to be discussed today. Again, we are 15 minutes past the end time. I don't know what everyone else's schedule is. I'm a bit concerned about where we are. As far as the August meeting, I can talk about that. It's already on our calendars, but I think it's very clear on what it is that's going to be comprised of. I'll look to Stacy for if we need to most definitely discuss the quarter reports. Otherwise, I recommend suspending conversation for new business to our August conversation, our August meeting.
This is the chair. Or, I'm not the chair. I don't know who I am. I'm tired. This is the director. I would agree that it's probably best to suspend the rest of the conversation till August. I will let you know that I have the room reserved for 3 hours. We might want to discuss if we're going to take the remainder of the time, maybe perhaps it's a good use to discuss what August will look like. Right now, I have a space reserved from 12 to 3, and I am more than happy to provide us with food and sustenance so that, if you're making a trip in, you will walk in the door and I will have, food at the ready at 12, or if we decide we want to eat at 1, whatever, I will provide with food. And it's a room in the Capitol. It's the Lieutenant Governor's conference room. So with a 3-hour time block, I have not set out an agenda. We haven't discussed it. I mean, I think that's something we can now start to build out. There's several things that given the notes I'm taking here, that need to take place. One thing that absolutely positively has to happen is we have to elect a secretary. As per the audit, we need to stay in compliance with our statute. So we got to get that done, y'all. That we are over time on that. So that has to be done pretty quickly. And the end of the quarter reports, that is not anything that's mandated. That's just this, remember that thing that I was like, hey, don't be like me, because if I know something's due in December, I won't start till November. So I was just trying to arbitrarily put out some road marks along the way towards the end of the year report. It's not mandated. That's it. Just keep it in mind that we have to produce like a report at the end of the year. I just don't want you to forget about it until November.
Okay. Okay, Stacey, thank you for that. It sounds like there's a willingness to suspend the conversation with me providing this update to what August can look like in the vision I have. For those of you who have been on the commission for some time, you may recall back in 2022, there was a pre-strategic planning process. The purpose of that process was to get a perspective from the sitting commissioners, executive director, and those connected to the commission on what previously was the role of the commission and the commissioners, what currently was the role of the commission and commissioners, and what was the future vision for the role of the commission and commissioners. That was a pre-strategic planning process that had an exercise of bringing all the commissioners together to be able to talk and process through who are we, and what is it that we do, and what is it that we can do moving forward. That effort was done then. There were some movement in various directions since then. But I would really like to bring that effort back up to the surface for this current sitting commission to be able to again process through what currently is the role of the commission, and really more so and most importantly, what do we want the commission to be, and who do we want to be as commissioners moving forward? I would like to use the August meeting to have a workshop that focuses in on that. A working exercise of really identifying the role of the commission and identifying and then committing to what this commission is going to be doing moving forward under our leadership, under our respective leadership. So Stacey has shared, she has secured a room for 3 hours of opportunity. It's my recommendation based on the outstanding matters from this current conversation, that being the election, which is something that has to take place. And I want to reiterate, it is not just secretary, it is vice chair. I would put that first / secretary, though it's the secretary aspect that's written in the statute. But I don't want to lose. It's vice chair / secretary. And we need to have someone in that role. August. It can't continue to be pushed out. So with that bit of business handled as official business in continuation from this meeting, and then shifting into a workshopping, brainstorming, and visioning process for determination of who are we? Why are we here? What are we going to do? And then how are we going to hold each other accountable? That's going to be the focus and the intent for my recommendation, Stacey, for the focus and the intent moving forward for the August meeting. So that when we leave in August, it's with a clear idea of this is who we are. This is what we are going to be doing for the remaining months of our respective terms, and the encouragement for the direction of the commission period, and being able to activate that and not coming back years later to pick it back up again. Let's decide and be able to move the commission forward in that way. That is my recommendation for the August meeting. Is there any thoughts or feedback to that? Okay. So with that, and former Chair McCormick, again, the whole process of there's need to be a vote on closing out new business, or do we just move forward? How do we advance the meeting to bring it to announcements and adjournment?
We need a motion on the floor for an adjournment.
Okay, so
Commissioner Westbrook, so moved.
is there a second?
I second it, Commissioner Davis.
Motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are you ready for are there any questions? All of the ayes.
Aye.
Are there any nays? With that, I will again say thank you for your time. Thank you for the willingness to continue to dig into this work and what this commission can be as we look and move forward. And I look forward to seeing you all. Before I close out, what I'm going to do in preparation for August is I'm going to send out a survey link. Those of you who are already on the commission at that time, you've already done it. Please feel free to update it on your current thoughts. For those who are new to the commission, please complete the survey. It's asking your thoughts, perspectives, experiences about the commission and your ideas about your role as commissioners. That will be a part of our exercise and conversations. That's collective summary from both those who have already served and those who are new to move us forward in our conversations next month. So that will be coming out after this meeting later today. If there is nothing further, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.